I am from the International Energy Agency. Our agency was created in 1973-74 as a response to the oil crisis from the importing countries. And the building sector is an important sector for the IEA member countries. Because the building sector, the consumption of the building sector in most of the IEA countries represent 40% of their primary energy supply, knowing that most of the IEA countries are energy importers, so it's related to our energy security. Therefore, the IEA established 2 years ago the Sustainable Building Center, under which we conduct analysis of the existing policies and we make recommendations to our member government on how to improve their policies based on best practices already implemented in different countries. I will share with you the most recent analysis that we have for the renovation of the building stock, which is the main challenge for most of the IEA countries. As you see here, between 1990 and 2010, we have an increase in the energy consumption in the IEA countries, and we see that the share of the building sector in this increase is becoming more and more important, mainly because the industry in most of the IEA countries went out of the IEA countries, and this increases the share of the building sector, and because we had economic growth at that time and we had population growth at the same time. And when we see that, we look carefully, it doesn't mean that we didn't make progress in reducing the energy consumption of the building sector. If we look at here, we see that between 1990 and 2009, we see that we have an improvement in most of the IEA countries in reducing the consumption of the building sector. However, we are far away from what we are already able to do, what technologies are already able to deliver. When you see this blue bar, this is based on existing low energy buildings in IEA countries. And when we look at more carefully, this is the consumption per square meter. When we look at more carefully the consumption per dwellings, we see that the improvement is less. Look, for example, the US, we have minus 18% in terms of consumption improvement in the efficiency per square meter. When we look at this in terms of improvement per dwellings, it's 0, because in the meantime, we increased the number of square meters per person. And again, we see that we are still far away from low energy buildings, from what we are already able to deliver, what technologies are already able to deliver. From policy perspective, in the IEA countries, all countries started designing energy efficiency policies in the 70s. Big progress has been made since that time. However, there is still room for improvement. And we see, for example, in all IEA countries, we have what we call building energy codes. This is the main policy targeting the reduction of the consumption in the building sector. However, we have been, in most of our countries, the requirements have been strengthened over time. However, this is more for new buildings. For existing buildings, which is the main challenge for our countries, the requirements are either they don't exist or very, very low. So we are not going to achieve low energy building stock if we don't tackle the existing buildings, building. And then in the EU more specifically, we designed the energy performance certificate for both new and existing buildings. And this certificate had at least 3 goals. One of them is to provide information to investors and consumers about the consumption of their building sector. I think from this perspective, it's quite successful. And the other target was to have a benchmark for the existing building stock. From this perspective, we are not as successful as we should have been because in most of our countries, we don't have registration system and we don't have quality control. So the certificate are delivered, but we don't know exactly based on which consumption, and we don't control that. And then we implemented different schemes voluntary schemes to lower the energy consumption of the building sector. The most successful one is the energy performance contracting. However, usually the energy performance contracting targets only component solution with short payback period time, like, for example, replacing boilers or windows. So we don't have the holistic approach that the building sector requires. And we have different financial instruments Again, mainly grants targeting a component solution, and we don't have, in most of our countries, we don't conduct evaluation of our incentive schemes. So we basically provide incentives, and then we don't know exactly how much savings do we get in most countries. It's quite new to conduct evaluations. And the most important missing piece in all our policies is monitoring, verification, and enforcement. So we don't really check what's going on in the field, and this is something that needs to be developed in all IEA countries. And now when we look at more precisely the incentive schemes, then we see that, look at the red part are all the existing incentive schemes in the EU in 2011 and 2012, and they are not related to specific energy savings target. So basically we use taxpayers, but we don't know what we will get later on. And maybe this may explain the fact that we don't have evaluations as well, because it's very hard to evaluate later on. And then when you look at the blue one is where the incentive schemes are quite well designed, so you have specific energy performance target when you use these incentives. However, when you analyze this requirement, they are quite low, so they will never take us to where we should be in 2050. And then we have in these incentive schemes, we have some good examples, like for example, where we learned a lot from these schemes. Like for example, the KfW scheme in Germany, it was very comprehensive. It was targeting a comprehensive refurbishment, and it removed, the aim was also to remove the barriers that we usually, the market barriers that we usually have in the field. However, with the KfW scheme, even if it had a positive impact on public budget, we basically, the Germans, basically, the renovation rate in Germany, the energy renovation rate in Germany is less than 1%. So you see that it's not enough to scale up. So the KfW scheme needs to be improved. We have other good practices, for example, the PACE scheme in the US, where we remove the split incentives barrier through linking the incentive to the property instead of linking this to the people living in the property. But at the same time, the US example that has been a little bit used for the Green Deal in the UK, there is a UK version of that, the energy requirements are weak. So we basically, with the PACE, and even in the case of the UK example, they will basically lock the savings potential until the next round of renovation. And in the case of residential sector, at the best, we have the round of energy renovation every 30 years. And then we have third-party financing, but the main issue that we have with the third-party financing and on-bill financing is the fact that we always target the lowest, the short payback period solutions. Again, mainly it's boilers, windows, at the best it's windows. So we don't target the comprehensive refurbishment that we need. We think from our side that the existing schemes do not take us, are not designed in such a way they will take us to low energy building stock in 2050 because they are disconnected from the overall policy scheme that we have in our countries. The building sector plays a major role in the economic development of our countries, in reducing our energy imports bills, but this is possible only if we think the building energy efficiency policies within the overall policy economic framework of the country. And of course, we keep the technical part, so the building energy codes and standards and labeling that we need as technicians to make sure that we will get the savings. However, it works only, we will be where we should be in 2050 only if we have this overall and holistic vision considering the overall economic impact of the building sector. And just to show you how this impact is important in all IEA countries, most of them are energy importers. The building sector play an important role in gas import. And you see here that 58% of final gas consumption in IEA countries is due to the building sector. And this has an impact on trade balances of the countries. So for example, if you take France, most of its negative trade balance is due to its energy import, and the gas is an important component of the energy import in France. So reducing this energy, these expenditures will allow France to allocate this public spending, to education, for example, and employment in the country. What we do is that at the IEA, we look at all the existing good practices in different countries, and then we try to put them all together with the target to address the priorities of our countries. One of the major priorities for the EU countries mainly is to reach their 2050 climate target, which has an impact, which cannot be reached without 2050 energy reduction target. And we designed a new policy framework. We are proposing to our member governments a new policy framework based on different best practices that we have been able to identify in different countries, and to remove these all the existing barriers. And we think that the energy renovation of the building sector at a large scale to achieve low energy building stock by 2050 will happen only if in our countries we will make the energy renovation mandatory. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that we have to make it mandatory tomorrow. It's impossible to do that in any country, to make it mandatory by 2014 or by 2013. But we can start step by step, using first the fact that each time we conduct renovation, we need to have energy renovation included. Finland, they just passed the regulation to do that. And we are hoping that other EU countries will do the same because of the energy dependency of the EU countries. So this scheme removes the major barriers based on good practices. So the property owner-occupier barrier is removed through the PACE, could be removed through the PACE, which means that the financial program should be linked to the property and not to the users. And then we have lack of information and technical know-how in the field. So the way to do that is, we think that one-stop shop that will look at the overall building stock with the target to reduce the consumption by 2050 and prioritize the buildings where we should start first and how deep we should go in the renovation for each building based on the construction period, based on the climate and the local material that we have in the region. And then we usually work with one single company, for example, installers of boilers. This doesn't work. This lacks the savings potential. To renovate the building, to have a comprehensive energy renovation of the building stock, we need consortium of companies. We need construction companies. We need construction material companies. We need supply chain companies. All these companies need to be working together. We need to find a way to make them working together in such a way that they reach deep renovation of the existing building stock. And to avoid conflict of interest, the technical expertise should be conducted by third-party engineering companies, not inside, not those working for the consortium of companies, just to make sure that they will propose the most optimum solution for the renovation. And of course, we will need to finance that. And what we propose for the European countries is to create an energy renovation guarantee fund to guarantee the loans that the consortium of companies will need to be able to conduct the renovation. And the link, how to be paid for the renovation, could be done through on-bill financing, and the on-bill financing needs to be for a long period. So this period from our calculation can vary between 15 and 25 years based on the construction period of the building, the type of the building, and what is needed as renovation. This is where we are now, and we are trying to discuss with our member countries what does that mean for our countries to implement scheme like that, policy scheme like that. And we did some estimates. We have done estimates for 3 EU countries already, and we show with this estimate that we don't need more public funding. We just need to better use public funding to leverage the private sector funding. That's it for my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamina.